Okay, good. Well, first off, thanks for coming by. Been preparing hard for this Wake Forest team, this Wake Forest game coming up, and it's been an interesting week with a lot of new faces due to some of those injuries that we're trying to get through. But I'm anxious to see a lot of these new faces get some reps and see what they have. For a lot of them in their first and second games. So, with that, any questions you might have.
Stephen?
On the depth chart that we see today,
yeah.
On Monday, is that reflective of anything? Ben's the only injured player who's listed on here, on the quick plan.
Yeah, we're going to have, yes it is, to answer your question directly, yeah. With the injuries, those are some of the movements that we'll have. That full report will be out, but questionable are Ben and Johnny Miller and would be, let me make sure I got that right, and Eric Kroom will be questionable as well. And then you'll get that full report here later today.
Sure. Thanks, Scott.
You're welcome.
How has this week been different for AJ?
Well, since he's the starter, he's getting, last week Austin and AJ were splitting reps. This week AJ's getting dominant number of reps with Mitch getting, the 2 reps. So, a few more reps.
Other questions there, Mark?
When you see AJ do what he did last Saturday, you kind of wish you got him in there earlier, or did you expect it?
No, because Austin actually did some good things, minus the interception. We went right down the field, drive 1, had an opportunity, and then, made a bad throw, but he did a lot of good things too, Austin Wilson did. And then we were ready to insert AJ right away, and it played out the way we thought it could. You never know till you get him out there, but was pleased obviously with a lot of the things. There's a lot of other things that we need to do better that AJ can do better. So it'll be interesting to see him progress from his first week of playing to his second week, and he's had a good preparation week. And we've tweaked some things here and there to, kind of model his way with the offense. You have to adjust to the people you have to play with. So it'll be fun. It'll be interesting to see how he comes out and plays in the second one.
Are there specific things you're looking for him to do this week?
We'll show you Saturday. We got some things that we think can be good for him, taking advantage of his skill sets, basically.
Dan?
Coach, how you doing today?
Hey, Dan. How are you?
Good. I know you talked about Steve Ishmael a lot, but looking at some of the other receivers, Jared West, Adrian,
Yeah.
Fleming, some of those guys, where are they compared to where you need them to be, and how have they showed you in practice that they can step up if Ben Lewis isn't going to be ready?
Right. Well, I think the two young men you just mentioned, I think have had good weeks. When I say not this week, but weeks prior, and I think that outfit's done a good job. Now we've been banged up, and roles have changed with the absence of our 2 starters at the slot receivers, basically with Ashton and Brisley, and then we moved Ben inside more. So I think there's been a change element, and then when you have a quarterback change as well, some of the things that maybe you planned on doing earlier could be changed a little. So there's a lot of different things, but I've been pleased personally with the way they've gone to work at it. And I think Jared especially has done a good job, along with Adrian, with the way they've brought some of the young guys along too. Very unselfish group that's just trying to get the next guy ready to play. And so now it's, Sean Avant ready to go.
Stephen?
Have you guys prepared, it sounds like if Austin can't play, have you guys prepared a 3rd quarterback for an emergency situation?
Yeah, we've done some things there. Hopefully we never get to it. And I wouldn't want to say what we're doing exactly going into it. So at least there could be an element of surprise. But we've done some things. We've been creative.
How are you, Coach?
Good, Nico.
I know he won't be back for a while, but just wondering how Terrell's doing both physically and mentally with the injury too.
Terrell's doing okay. You just feel so bad, for all these kids that are out. Guys that have really put a lot of work in and were really hopeful to have a great season, and now they're out. And I think Terrell's in that frustration mode right now. But what we've tried to do is we've tried to turn the page forward and say, okay, you're going to have a little bit of extra time here because the rehab that you can do for a broken bone is limited. So let's look into fast forwarding ahead and saying, what are you going to do? Because he's going to graduate on time, ahead of time, and can work towards a second degree or maybe a master's program. So he's been looking into speaking with people like Rick Burton over at our sports management program to try to look at different things in his life outside of football that moving forward is, I think, a healthy way of taking on a down moment and looking at the silver lining that, hey, I can spend some time with some very professional people that can give me guidance for the rest of my life. And that's the approach that he's taken, and albeit there's struggles along the way, that's part of the learning environment you get to take advantage of by being a football player, because you're going to get injured. I mean, that's football. I mean, everybody that's ever played the game, I'm sure even Floyd's had injuries, right, Floyd? And you go through them, and you figure out a way to adjust and overcome. And that's what he and the rest of these kids are trying to do. So we're trying to keep lifting them up, and say, what's the silver lining here? A lot of them, there is no silver lining, I can't play. I said, well, you can get more study hall time, and they don't like to hear that. But, you try to adjust the elements as best you can and try to set a mindset forward as opposed to looking backward or just waiting to get better. That's no way. You got to try to move forward with everything you do. And Terrell's fought with that a little bit this week. I know he has, but he'll get through it because he's a strong young man.
Jacob?
Hi, Scott.
Hi, Jacob.
Going off what you're saying about the wide receiver picture, where does Jamal Custis fit into that right now?
We're trying to keep developing, the different things he's doing. He's doing good. He's young. He's a freshman. He's up and down. He's got tremendous skill set. He's got a lot of things moving forward that'll give him a chance to be a very good player. Like so many young guys, he has to just learn how to become more consistent with his practice habits, more consistent with off-the-field habits with academics and all the other things, because I think when you get your stuff in order as a young man, when you get your stuff in order, when everything's in order, you start to play better. And I think it's part of the mindset and the training of being consistent in all your other areas. So we're working on all those things with Jamal. He'll be a very good football player before this thing's said and done.
Nate?
You've gone up against some pretty good defensive fronts in recent weeks, and some more on the horizon coming up.
Yeah.
Has Hickey been about as consistent and solid as you could have hoped? And how, I guess, what kind of peace of mind does he bring to a young quarterback room that you're now dealing with?
Right. Yeah, Sean's done a good job, and he's his biggest critic. He's his own biggest critic. I think all those kids that have played football, all the older brothers, as I call them, that have played football, when they look in the huddle at AJ, there's a sense of enthusiasm because they see how excited he is. So I think there's cause and effect. I'm sure for AJ, he looks out there and he says, hey, I'm playing with Sean Hickey. You know what I mean? He was in high school last year reading about Sean, may get drafted high someday and all that. Now he's playing with him. And AJ just loves to play, Nate. I mean, he loves to play the game. And I think he can be a little more relaxed when he's got the big guy putting his hand on his shoulder, say, hey, you can do this, kid. You know what I mean? I see a lot of that going on throughout practice. Myself and the coaching staff last night, we were talking about that. And it was kind of exciting to see those guys putting their arm around the little guy and saying, let's go. Same thing with Irv Phillips. When Irv first started to get his feet wet, Tyson Gully, man, Tyson took him under his wing and was teaching him stuff and talking about how to approach the college game. So I see a lot of those things from Sean passed along, to the younger kids. But he's done a nice job, and I know he's anxious to have an even better second half of the season.
Jesse?
Hey, Scott.
Hi, Jesse.
Wondering, second time in conference play, you're going to face a true freshman quarterback.
Yeah.
Wondering if there's anything maybe you wish you did against Louisville to exploit that kind of an experience that maybe you're taking into this week?
No, not a really 20/20 hindsight situation. Just you got to go to the next opponent and say, who are they, what are they, and attack it. I don't like to compare those two things very often because the people around the guy have more to do with than just solely looking at the guy playing quarterback. You'd like to be able to, defend the run a bunch and make them throw it more and rally to the quick stuff. So nothing's changed as far as the way we approach the game plan. The only thing that changes are the wrinkles in the game plan that you think you can exploit, because there's a weakness to every offense and there's a weakness of every defense, and it's our job to find those areas and then exploit them. Less personnel, more scheme at the beginning of the week, and then as you get going and that film becomes more and more familiar, then it becomes the personnel within the scheme that you attack. But it starts off with knowing who you are, first and foremost, and then understanding the strengths and weaknesses of the enemy, and then attacking them as best you can. So that's the approach we take. Young quarterback, you'd like to make him do more, because, that's the approach you want. You'd like to get to him.
Stephen?
You guys have been cut pretty thin at wide receiver. The one name we kind of haven't heard thrown around as far as playing is Adley. Is the plan to redshirt him at this point?
You can't look at it that way. You can't. Life is week to week to week to week in college football. And then you have to look at the program and say, where are we? And you also have to look at the formula in the program. I've talked a lot about that to Matt. There's been other places I've been where you're maybe a state college, a state school, and you could recruit a bunch of walk-ons because it was affordable for a lot of those families to go to the school there. So you could have 25 walk-ons. You could actually cut walk-ons and put them on a waiting list. Then people didn't work out, you bring them in. And all of a sudden, you're 3 years into the program, and this kid's been in the program for 3 years, albeit not on scholarship maybe. He knows your system inside out and upside down. The problem with a private institution such as Syracuse and Stanford is there aren't a lot of kids that are going to pay $60,000 for a chance to maybe earn a scholarship someday. So with that being said, your young guys that are in the program that in an ideal situation you'd like to put up on the shelf for a year, it may not be able to work out that way. And that's just the honesty to the formula and the situation that you're in those situations or in those environments such as Syracuse. So he's been working hard. He has a lot of ability. A lot of those freshmen do. The thing I like about the freshman class so much is they love football. They're very passionate people when it comes to their football. And now that they've gotten through the first part of the semester and the drudgery of the exams and the papers and the coaches being on them for 4 minutes late to a class, and we're getting them up in the morning and making them learn how to do things right, I'm starting to see those freshmen turn the corner, Adley included, and you're starting to see their skill sets jump out on tape. So he's a very good football player, and we'll just take it week to week with all these kids to see what we can and can't do with them.
Dan?
Coach, we've talked a lot about A.J. Long, but now his backup, Mitch Kimball. What can you say about where Mitch is at and how you would define him right now in his progression?
Right. I've always been a big fan of Mitch Kimball. He's a bright young man. He's got good feet. He can run. He's fast. He's a great long jumper in high school. His arm's good. So I'm interested to see, how he continues to develop. But I'm a big fan of him, and he's done a nice job in his first week of really getting a lot of reps. He's done a nice job. I've seen marked improvement from day 1 to day 3 throughout the course of our practice schedule.
Mark?
Real quick follow on that one. Is there a plan for him to play this week?
I mean, the real answer is there's a plan to play anybody on the travel list, and he's on the travel list, and so he's got to be ready to play.
Original question was, the big picture-wise, you guys are waiting for the same spot. You need 4 wins in the last 6. Their coach even came out and said this is an important game for them because they think it's one they can get. How important is this game for you guys?
We got to get to 1-0 in the second half of the season. That's it. Got to get to 1-0 second half of the season, and this is the one in front of us.
What's the impact of Wake Forest coming off a bye on the game?
Well, they have 2 weeks to prepare and heal up. A lot of things that happen in a bye week are you get guys healed up and feeling better, just feeling better body-wise. And then from a preparation point of view, from how you can approach your scheme, they can take us and dissect us. Usually you go into a game and you break down the last 3 to 4 games that are most familiar to what you're doing on offense or defense. When you have a bye week, we always take a bye week and we say, hey, let's take 6 games rather than 3 or 4 games, and let's break them down and go a little bit slower. And I don't know how Dave does it, but for me, I say we can have 2 Tuesday practices, we can have 2 Wednesday practices, so you can have double the preparation and not be going home at midnight every night. So there's the freshness factor, and then the ability to dissect the X's and O's with more time and less, and less hurried less hurried approach to, your game planning. So we'll see.
Jacob?
How have you seen the foam helmet covers that Tim helped to bring in help you guys? And were they weird at first? Kind of quiet at practice?
Yeah, referring to the guarded helmet thing that we use at practice. To me, it was not too strange after the first day. I mean, it looked like our whole team had big afros at first when we turned on the film. That's what it looked like. The thing that was most noticeable as the practice was quieter, and which was kind of strange for me because, a loud practice meant a physical practice in the past. So you might have had a good physical practice those first couple days, but it didn't look like it until you got to the film room. But I'm hoping that they've been good. My whole approach there was, better safe. When you have an opportunity to create a more safe environment, why not? And I think it's been good.
Last question, Stephen.
We've seen Prince involved more and more in the return game. First
Yeah.
punts with Brisley out, and I saw you put him out there in front of our last game. What does he bring in that regard, and do you see him maybe taking some of our spots in kick returns?
Not necessarily taking spots, but being the other guy. Yeah, and then seeing how the game rolls, how many reps a guy's getting, and who's fresh, and that sort of thing. But Tyson does a good job fielding the football. He's done it in the past, so with him being the number one back, I felt it was a good idea to try to get some of these young guys that had ability on the field, and that was the starting point. Now that we've had some injury, you have to adjust. So that's all it was.
I'm sorry, Nate, I forgot. You go.
Are you or any of your assistants going down early to check out some games Friday night?
We do have a recruiting schedule that we're going to talk about here a little bit later, but I can't talk about that because then where they're going and all that. But yes, we do have some guys going out. Yep.
Well, how much of an impact can you make in season recruiting like this?
It's as much. I think there's two sides of it. If you see someone that you've already started to recruit and they know you're at the game, I think that helps. That's the one side of it. And then the second part of it is you can go down and see some kids, see some video in the practice, on the, in the high schools. And then if you go to a game, you might find out, hey, there's this dynamite freshman that we didn't know about, and maybe we know about him before other people. So it's kind of those two things.
Are you going?
No. No, just worried about beating Wake.
Thanks
What's that?
very much, yes.
Okay, thanks.